Very excited to start our workshop on adding AI search to your WordPress site. So without further ado, let us get started. So just an overview of what we're going to go over today. We'll do some introductions. We will talk over what the WordPress integration actually entails. Very exciting kind of two-step process where you're both pulling WordPress data into Yext and being able to embed your answers experience onto your WordPress site. And then we'll give you an end-to-end demo showing both these steps, step by step. And finally, we'll leave time for questions and be able to answer anything that you might have. So for some introductions, I am Matt Malone. I'm a product manager here at Yext. I've been spearheading this WordPress integration over the past few months, and so we're really excited to get it up and going. Adrian is also here. Adrian, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, just quickly. So I work with Matt and we kind of do a bunch of design and build and everything together. So know a lot about WordPress as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Adrian. So to get started, we want to go through a high-level explanation of what the WordPress and Yext demo actually entails. So Adrian will be doing that right now.
Thank you. So the big component of our WordPress integration are our data connectors. We offer 3 out-of-the-box data connectors. They are for pages, posts, and media. And a question we get all the time is kind of, why do we need these data connectors? The first step to Yext is always setting up your knowledge graph with entities. And sometimes when you have a ton of content in another location, for example, WordPress, it's very daunting to kind of move it over and build it out. So these out-of-the-box data connectors make it super easy. They pull in fields from your content directly from WordPress and map them to fields and entities within the Yext knowledge graph. So very quick and easy and very low lift for anyone who uses WordPress. Another question we get all the time, though, is what if I have other custom content types? And we have a very quick and easy solution for this too. We have a WordPress source. So with that, you can specify whatever content type you have in WordPress. Could be a product, could be anything else under the sun. And you can still pull it into Yext. Because there are so many, we can't make out-of-the-box connectors for everything, but this source is a great way to do just that. To back up quickly, what is a source? It's just a foundation of any data connector. A data connector is built on top of a source. And here we've done all the hard work for you in setting up the integration, except for just a few pieces. So in the little screenshot beneath, you can see you'll have to put in your WordPress domain and then your content type specifically, which we will walk through live in just a few seconds. So those two components, the data connectors and the source, are kind of the back end, how you get data into Yext. And then we also have a front end. So we also make it super easy to add site search to your WordPress site with just a drag and drop experience that you can customize further, which Matt will be demoing for you as well. So I walked through kind of each piece of the integration individually, but just to give you a visual on how they all kind of flow together. You have your WordPress data stored in WordPress. You then use our data connectors or source to pull in and sync your content into the Yext knowledge graph. From there, you can build out your search experience, and we make this super easy with our WordPress free trial. And from there, you'll just drag and drop and add the experience to your WordPress site. And that's it. Then your site search solution is fully configured and launched, which is quick and easy as I went through it. Now I'll turn it back over to Matt to give an introduction to the Yext free trial that I kind of teased.
So our free trial makes this integration super easy for anyone to set up. So how does it work? Just to give you an overview of this free trial, you are able to create a Yext account in under 1 minute, automatically pull in data into your knowledge graph from your WordPress site. And as Adrian mentioned, those content types that will automatically come in are pages, posts, and media. Super common content types for every WordPress site, but you can of course expand that and include any of your custom content types or any built-in content types, whatever you want to bring in from WordPress. It's very easy to build any connector off of a source. And finally, it's really just a matter of pressing one button to get your answers experience up and running. And that answers experience will be very out of the box, include all of your posts, but we have many a guide to explain how to expand that answers experience, add more content types, add this and that. We just assumed that post was something that probably people are going to want to search regardless of how your WordPress site is set up. It's just a very basic content type, and adding verticals is just a matter of following a few steps. The aforementioned guide is linked right here. I will put it in the chat. Or Adrian, do you mind doing that? Thank you so much. So integrating answers with WordPress goes through every step of this process, broken down into two major steps. The first one being pulling WordPress data into Yext, and the second one being adding answers to your WordPress site. So that link is now in the chat if you want an overview or even want to look at it while I'm going through all of this. We make it nice and easy with tons of links out to all the different places that you might need to reference while going through this process. So by all means, sign up for a Hitchhiker's account if you don't have one already, so you can continue learning after this session at hitchhikers.yext.com. We would give you a sandbox account and make it very easy to get familiar with the Yext platform. And you'll earn some points for attending this meeting, which is of course amazing. And for your WordPress free trial, all you have to do is go to yext.com/try/WordPress. When you put in a few fields like the ones you see right here, your name, your email, company, and WordPress website URL, just by clicking next, it'll pull in your pages, posts, and media content from your WordPress site into the Yext platform. You'll click that button that says enable experience that Adrian will show you, and your answers experience will be ready to be embedded back onto your WordPress site. So we've been talking a lot about how this thing works. I think it's about time we show you. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Adrian will show you how to pull in content from WordPress into your Yext platform. And then I will show you how to embed that experience, answers experience, back onto WordPress. So go ahead, Adrian.
Thanks, Matt. Awesome. So you can see that I already have up the last page that Matt was just talking about, and I've already filled in most of that information specific to myself. For this demo, we're going to go ahead and use Tonal, the fitness product, as our experience. And when you're putting in your WordPress domain, make sure that you include the https:// and your www. You need the full website URL or domain to make these data connectors work. Once all your information's in, go ahead and click next and set a password for your new Yext account. And as this loads, it's doing kind of a lot of fancy things in the background. As Matt mentioned, the data connectors are being run. You get this nice little GIF that kind of tells you what your next steps are as soon as your account is spun up. And now it's ready. So you can just go ahead and click take me to my account. And the first thing you'll see is this quick start guide that pops up. And this is really going to help you navigate through the free trial as you go. So go ahead and click got it. The first step was already done as we were waiting for our account to load. So that was data connectors. So we have data, and you can see them on this side. There's pages, posts, and media, as we have been saying multiple times. And then the second step is going to be actually to enable our experience. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit more about the connectors. So where do we find them? How do we see how they ran? You'll be in the Knowledge Graph tab and navigate to connectors. And you can see the 3 of them there. They're all scheduled to run daily by default. And then if you actually want to see the progress and the details of them, you'll click into view, and you'll be able to see how many new entities were created, any updated entities, if content changed, a link or some wording. Deleted entities, you can set up connectors to delete entities. This is not something that we have set up by default because the assumption is that you bring in new content. You don't want to get rid of anything that was existing before. Failed entities would be when something was missing and a new entity did not actually get created. So you'd need to do a little bit of troubleshooting there, but not much to worry about. And then unchanged is if that entity already exists in the knowledge graph and you made no updates to it in WordPress, then you would see the number of unchanged entities there. So that is just a quick example of our connectors page. But as we spoke about before, what if you have custom content that you want to pull in that's not a page, a post, or media? So what I'm going to do is walk us through pulling in a custom content type from the source that I mentioned before, just to show you really how easy it is. So we will go back to our connectors tab that we were just in and click the add connector button at the top. And this is our source page, and you'll see the WordPress one right here, which we will grab. Now you have to do a few inputs, but the first is selecting what operation. So what do you want the source to do? As we mentioned before, we want to fetch custom content. Again, we'll have to put in our full WordPress domain. And then the content type needs to be exactly what you call it within WordPress. So for this example, we're going to run a product. So the most important thing is sometimes you need to decipher if it's going to be a single or a plural form of your content type. In this case, I know that it's a product. So we're going to go ahead and pull and click continue. This just would show you if any errors came up, but because we've done the hard part of the source, no errors should pull in. And now you get to specify exactly what you want to be the fields in your entity. So if you're not sure, you can go ahead and add default selectors. For the purposes of this demo, I'm just going to add a few to show you how it's done. And if you need to know kind of what those selectors are, I always like to view the raw response. So this tells you exactly what data is being pulled in. So that way you can see an example and then pick whatever fields you might need. So close that out. To add one specific selector, you'll click this drop-down arrow and click Add Selector. I'm going to first pull in the ID to make an entity ID, and I know my path is just ID. Another one that's a required field is name, and for this, the selector is title.rendered because it's a nested object. And then if you click save, you'll see the two of them pull in here. I actually want just one more selector. I want to make sure I have a landing page for my product, and the path for that is just link. So now I have all the fields that I want to pull in for my product entities. And the last thing I want to show you about our connectors and sources is adding a transform. If you look at the name column, some of them have some extra characters. You can see this one here has BR for breaking. And we don't want that to pull in just like that. So you can click this Add Transform button. And you're going to, we have a whole bunch of different transforms that are built in. In this case, I have certain characters that I want to replace. So I'm going to select Find and Replace. And you can pick the column that you want to perform this transform on. It's the name column. The text I have is BR, and I just want to replace it with a space. So I'll go ahead and put a space and replace with. Once I click apply, you can see very quickly that that has been removed from the name. And that's exactly what I was hoping for. So then I can go in and continue. So I have all my fields and everything there. And here you can select what different entity or what different fields you actually want to pull into the knowledge graph, which I think is really helpful. It really will help you customize and design really whatever you're going to pull in. And again, because this is custom, you'll have certain entity types that you'll have to create kind of in the background, which I think is great for kind of making the knowledge graph yours. So I can go ahead and actually map those for you. Just let me get back to my page. Okay, so as I mentioned, these are products, so I'll click the product entity type, and this gives you some sample data of those selectors that we had and what fields they should be. Very simple. We'll map it to entity ID and click apply. Name, which I mentioned is the other required field, and click apply. And then our landing page URL for them and apply. Once we click save, we can go in and run the connector. And this will show you kind of the progress. And again, as I mentioned before, we'll detail how many new entities we got, which is awesome. We got 10 entities. So now that we have kind of done the custom content on top of the built-in data connectors, we can actually go ahead and enable our experience because we have everything in there from WordPress. And with this guide, you can just click enable here. And this kind of auto starts the publishing for our entire search experience. That's kind of all you need to do to go live in the back end. I will now pass it over to Matt, who will run through the front end and actually getting this search experience that we just built onto your WordPress site.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Adrian. So yes, so at this point, our answers experience is being built. Let's say it has been built. It only takes, a minute to actually get up and running. And then we are back on our WordPress site. So this is just my home screen. And I'll go to plugins, search Yext. And then Yext AI search is the plugin that we're looking for. We'll go ahead and we'll install this. I actually already have it installed on my account. So it comes up right here on the side automatically. And we have, this beautiful landing page inviting us basically to the flow of how we're going to get our answers experience embedded on our WordPress site. So the first question that it'll ask us is whether we have a Yext account or not. And under the assumption that we did the free trial, we would click yes, I'm all set. Or if we just have a Yext account and already have our answers experience ready to go, we can click yes. But if you wanted to sign up for the free trial just from WordPress, you could click right here and that would redirect you to that free trial. But we already have it. Adrian already did that for us. Thank you, Adrian. And do we need to pull in data from WordPress into Yext? Now, if we did, we could click index data and it would redirect us to Yext once again. We could go through that connector flow, pull in whatever we want from our WordPress site. Luckily, we don't have to do that. So for this case, no, I am all set. If we needed to build an answers experience, for example, if we had all of our data in our Yext account, but we just haven't built out the actual search experience, we could follow this guide for how to do that. We could go and create the answers experience, but as we saw Adrian just do, that is handled already. And now all we need to do is copy over some experience details from our answers experience into WordPress. So I've already done that here, but I'm just going to take a second and explain what each of these mean on a very high level. So our experience key is going to be copied from our answers page on Yext. And that just refers to which answers experience I have. If, say, you have multiple, you want to make sure that you're embedding the right one. If you use the free trial, it's automatically going to be called WordPress Site Search. But if you've built your own outside of the free trial or for whatever reason, it might be called something else. So you'll just copy that from your answers tab on the platform. You will also copy over an API key, a business ID, and your production URL. So production URL, the only thing to note right here is that this actually doesn't come from the answers tab, but it comes from the pages tab. This is where we just saw Adrian publishing the actual experience. You just need to copy over this link so that it can iframe into your WordPress site. And here you can also choose which SDK version you want to use for the theme. We have a few options. I will stick with 1.2.0 for the purposes of this demo. I'll click save and continue. So now one feature here is we can enable global search. So let's say I have had my WordPress site for a long time and I've used native WordPress search. If I wanted to automatically replace all of those core WordPress search bars with my Yext search bar, I would just click this and it would do that for me, which is great. Very nice and easy. I don't have any native WordPress searches on my search bars on my WordPress site right now, so it doesn't really matter if I click it or not. I will keep it checked. And here is probably my favorite aspect of the entire flow, which is that we can customize our search bar live. So we get a little preview right here for what the search bar is going to look like, right? And if I want to change the placeholder text to say search anything, we can actually watch the CSS change as I'm doing this right here. If I want to change something like the heading for the autocomplete. So if I start typing something, it can give me various options right here, and our header we can change. So if I wanted to say, instead of did you mean autocomplete options or something like that. The submit text and the label text, I'll just call this prompts for now, something nice and boring. These are all optional. All these are is like backend stuff for what the actual names for the submit text and the label text are, but they don't appear on the front end of the experience. We can change the icon. So if we wanted to, make it, I think it's white right now, which is why it's not showing up, but yeah, here, let's change that. If I wanted to change the icon for this search experience to be a calendar, our classic Yext logo, which has that nice little graphic. If I wanted to make it an arrow, we have all of these different options right here for what you can include, which is very fun. We can, of course, change, the color. If I wanted to make it a lovely green, we could do that. And many different aspects of the CSS that we can change right here. If I want to change the font size of the autocomplete headings, we see we just got them bigger. We can test all this stuff during the WordPress, the flow of just setting it up. So we don't have to actually, embed it onto our pages, go back, change the CSS. It's also a completely no code experience. So we don't need to code anything. All we have to do is follow these different CSS stylings and go forward. So I am going to choose a different icon. I like this link, and then I'm going to click save and continue. I can choose where I want my search results page to be hosted. This is just pulling all of the different pages I have on my WordPress site. I don't really have that many in this instance. I can preview the page here, but I'm ready to go live. So I will click publish. And once I've done that, here we have an overview of all the settings. If I want to go back and change anything, if I want to change the CSS, if I want to change which answers experience is linked or something like that, I can change all of that stuff here. But why don't we actually see what it looks like to embed the experience on a post? So I will go to my posts. I'll go to my handy dandy sample WordPress post. And so the way that we integrate these is with Gutenberg Blocks. So Gutenberg Blocks, for those of you who are not super familiar with WordPress, are a tool that allows you to just drag and drop something onto your WordPress post or page or something of the sort. If we click plus right here, we can see all of the available blocks. Once I've downloaded this plugin, we see two other blocks right here, the search bar by itself and the search result page. So I'm going to pull over our search result page. And here is the answers experience that Adrian just made using the free trial. And if I type in, we have tonal, so something like strength training, we can see all of the posts that we have from our WordPress site related to strength training. It is really that simple. So without further ado, I think it is time to go over some questions. Awesome. So yes, we are happy to take any questions right now about either part of the experience. Feel free to put them in the chat. So I'm seeing one question, which is, can we embed multiple search bars on one WordPress post or page? And the answer to that question is yes. If, for example, you have a page on your WordPress site where you want both a search bar on the top and on the bottom, all you have to do is drag and drop that search bar multiple times, just like you watched me do with those Gutenberg blocks. You would just need to do it, in the header and then in the footer. That makes, a really nice WordPress page for someone if they have a question after scrolling to the bottom of the page or something like that. So yeah, we do have that functionality. Are there integration options other than Gutenberg Blocks? So Gutenberg Blocks is the main way that we recommend doing it, just because it's so much easier for people to use. So we have committed to using those for the sake of this plugin. You can always integrate into a WordPress site using a JavaScript snippet if you want some kind of if you want more functionality or some way, but in essence, it's doing the exact same thing. So it's really whatever is your preference. I'm seeing another question here that says, if I have any questions about integrating, where do I go to learn more? So that Hitchhiker's Guide that I linked in the chat is definitely very useful. It kind of is like an overarching source of information that includes information about both integrating the answers experience onto your WordPress site, as well as pulling in data. Hitchhikers is really the best place to go. We have community posts related to this. This webinar is recorded, so you can always do that. But I would say that guide is probably what is going to be most useful for you. Another question I'm seeing is, can I pull in authenticated WordPress data? The answer to that is yes, definitely. We have a section of our guide devoted exactly to this question. We make it really easy to set up application passwords, which is just a way to bypass authentication from a third party for WordPress. So let's say, you have some sensitive, or not necessarily even sensitive, but just private data that can't be accessed via an API by just anyone. What you can do is you can set up application passwords on your WordPress account and then just copy that password over into Yext when you're building out a connector, and that'll give you access to that data that is private behind the API. So that is one of actually a few ways that you can authenticate into your WordPress account for access to whatever data you would like. All right, I think that might be it in terms of questions. You can, of course, ask our community if you have any further questions, refer to the guide, refer to this webinar. But we just wanted to say thank you so much for joining. Adrian, if you can actually go back a few slides really quick. I realized that we skipped over this next steps. And so just to give you one last overview of what we can do from here, we can, of course, get your experience live. So if you want to start your free trial right now, you can go to yext.com/try/WordPress, plug in that little bit of information, your posts, your pages, your everything will start, your media will start coming in. But if you want to pull in anything else, you can do that. You can add more data to your knowledge graph, add more verticals to your answers experience and customize it, make, the perfect search experience for you on your WordPress site. We also just wanted to call out that we have another webinar coming next week on platform basics, leveraging your knowledge graph. That will be at 11 a.m. EST on the 12th. And if you have any questions, feel free to check out our Hitchhikers training. You can also join office hours. That's something I forgot to mention, which is bi-weekly on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. And feel free to ask the community. So without further ado, I think we can end just a little bit early. Feel free to refer to this recording in the future. And thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it.